Teddy Swims, welcome.
Thank you.
You're about to do a show tonight. We can hear the sound checks being on and off all afternoon while we've been waiting for you. Fourth time in Sydney. You say Australians get you. Why is that? What do you mean?
You know, I think I always attribute to it, like, I think that somewhere like Australians kind of believe in the inherent goodness of people, you know, and I think for that, everybody's just a little bit better and more hospitable and kinder and not so jaded like I think a lot of places in America are, you know. It reminds me a lot of home. I think the hospitality of, like, it feels like Southern hospitality, you know. It feels like salt of the earth, you know, and they've welcomed me so many times with open arms, and it just feels like home here.
A little bit of Georgia.
Yeah, absolutely.
You said actually after your performance at the NRL Grand Final, you said it meant the world to me. Now, you know, you're a charming guy, you are from the South, so were you just being polite, or was it a special thing for you to do?
You know, I think there's so many times we've come out here, and, you know, the trick of touring in Australia is usually you're flying in, playing that show, the next day flying to the next city, playing that show, so you don't really get time to do or see much, and as many times as I come here, we're really kind of seeing the inside of the venue, you know, and not really getting the whole cultural experience of, and so I think doing the grand final was like a really, you know, it was, I think, my first time being really a part of Australia, you know, and like being in the middle of it and seeing the rage of, like, the people and the excitement and the, you know, and I got to sit there and watch the game through the box too, and we were
first time you'd seen a rugby game.
Yeah, and I was still a little lost on what the heck's going on, but, you know, it was so cool. They're so tough, and I mean, hell of a time to be Brisbane, you know. They're men's and women's, and they won the AFL too, so it's like, I can't wait to get over there. They're probably still doing backflips.
I read that it was your father who introduced you to great singers like Marvin Gaye, like Al Green. But when did you realize that you had a voice?
You know, when I first got into theater, I think, like, I really I loved it. I fell in love. We weren't good, but, you know, we just kept at it. I mean, me and Jesse, we used to get dropped off at the movie theater. Our parents would give us $20, and we'd take that $20 and not see the movie and do what a lot of 16-year-olds do with it, you know what I mean? And just sit out there and play and sing and sing and sing. And, you know, as many times as got told, like, don't quit your day job, but we fell in love with it, and we wanted to be good, and I think we just got better and better and better, and you know, and eventually...
That suggests it's just a repetition or a training thing, but
Absolutely.
Was there not something essentially beautiful about what you have there?
Well, I think I know I will say I've been gifted, you know, but I think so much of the gift is of God to pursue a talent. I think is the hunger and the drive to pursue it and to become really good at it, to fall in love with it, I think is the gift. I don't think, like, being amazing immediately is the gift. Maybe for some people, but for us, we sucked, you know. But I think the gift was, falling in love with it, and the urgency that, like, the I have to do this with my life, that purpose in it, I think was the real gift, you know.
And was that to sing or to perform?
I think both, you know, and I think this instrument for me is like I think it's the only thing that's truly yours, you know, that nobody else can have. Like, if you have a guitar and the same amp and the same guitar and the same tone and you hit the same lick, you know, you kind of, that's it. Anybody can do that, you know. But I think with a voice, it's so bound to, like, your travel or your decisions or your sickness or the way you treated yourself last evening, or, like, you know, all these things that could go into what this is and your pain and your circumstances. And I think it's, like, truly, I'll always say to people, like, you know, use your voice in whatever ways it is. It's the only thing that you have. It's totally yours, and somebody needs to hear it, you know. I think it's important to not waste that pain, you know, and put it into an outlet. If I would have just drowned in the heartbreak versus, like, putting it on paper, and, you know, it's helped me not feel alone and helped so many people coming this evening not feel alone. And I think if you, and I tell people every night on the stage, whether you write a story or write a poem or write a song or write a book about your life, if it touches one person, you're going to find your tribe that way, and it's going to help somebody. And it's important to not waste that pain. Use it for something.
So is pain a better creator of music and lyrics than happiness? Now you're in a happy phase, but does pain make art come more purely?
I find that, like, so many times in my life, pain has really been the catalyst for, like, good things. But I used to see, like, in some masochistic way that I feel like I used to would almost, like, put myself in harm's way to get some sort of fuel for the record or something, and always live in this like negative, heartbroken space. And now in my life, I'm trying to understand that I can just access that pain versus like living in that darkness all the time, you know, and I can be happy and also can write happy songs too, you know. It's definitely easier to write happy songs when you're happy and sad songs when you're sad, you know, versus like trying to do that. But again, it's I think what's so beautiful about it though is for a quick 3 minutes every night, I can tap back into that pain that I felt and feel it all the way that I felt it, all the way, and go all the way back there. And on the end of that 3 minutes, snap back into reality as it is now and say, like, I was there, and I'm so grateful for that, and here I am now because of that. And in so many ways, it's like we get a way to, I guess, take ownership of that trauma and celebrate it amongst other people who have liked trauma as well, you know? And so it's I think it's truly like a celebration of that pain now versus like living in it. And it's still a balance that I'm trying to figure out, you know, not to just throw myself in harm's way all the time.
So your tattoos are obviously a big part of your creative self. How do you tell me about the story of your face? I know you've got tough love on your eyelids.
Yeah,
that's like crazy.
You know, I was never meant to get a face tattoo, as funny as that might sound. The first one I got, so my granddad, being a Pentecostal pastor, he was always like, you know, son, the calling of God is without repentance. Just promise me you're not going to tattoo your face, son. You know, and I was like, you got it, Pop. And well, the first one I got on my face, it says home at last. And I was with my grandma the day he died. It was the first time I'd ever seen, like, I guess death, like, right there in front of me, you know? And we were in his room, and he was on the ground, and my grandma, we had, you know, they lived close to all of our families. So there was like 50 people over there with food already, you know, it's like really close family. And my grandma was just sitting so calm. Well, you know, finally everybody walks out of the room, and I'm sitting on a piano in his room playing like I always do when I'm there. And she finally breaks down and she says this, and it changed my life forever. She's like, you know, he's home at last, he's home at last. But you left me behind, and like just sobbed, and I held her, and and it just moved me so much. And that moment like changed my life in so many ways. And so I got home at last to commemorate his death, and just to, I guess, piss him off one more time. You know what I mean? Because I know he's probably looking down on me like, damn it, son. You know. But so like I promised him never get my face tattooed, but I did in commemorates of him, which is just one last like loving FU to him, you know what I mean?
That's such a beautiful story. I'm going to leave it there because whatever I ask you, I can't do better or be more beautiful than you just were. Teddy Swims, thank you.
Thank you.